Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely evening. This is going to be a different video than a lot of the videos I've done on this channel. I usually am a bit more excited for it. I did this video already and then my file was just complete corrupt garbage. The audio, the video, everything. Don't know why, it's just garbage. I was able to use Whisper and Speech Note to get a transcript of it, so you may see me looking at the screen every now and then. I feel like I got everything out exactly as I wanted the first time, and I don't know how to really reproduce that. I don't usually read from the screen, but you may see me do that from time to time because I've already done this video. If anybody has been watching this channel for any length of time, you probably understand that I have a deep and fundamental disdain for influencer culture and where it has gone. I believe that there is a lot of rot on this website, and I believe there's a lot of rot within influencer culture in general. I did a video about this with Brand Safe Influencers with Marcus Brownlee last year, where he did this greenwashing interview with Apple, not asking a single difficult question, not challenging any of what they were saying, and just completely just allowed this complete pile of garbage to be fed to 15 or 18 million people. I did a video on Christmas Eve talking about what I think it takes to be a real influencer, and I told the story of somebody that inspired me. This video is going to be, I would say, part 3 in that series. I made a community post about Linus from Linus Tech Tips, and I went over a lot in that post that bothered me about the way he presents himself and the actions that he takes. And I stand by what I said in that post. I stand by all of it. And I wanted to do a video that goes over why. What sparked that post was a video that I saw, and it was a video where the title had changed 3 times. It also presented some items from Steve at Gamers Nexus that bothered me. It would have bothered me regarding virtually anybody. Steve is essentially here is just an example. But so there was a video that he made titled, "Is Gamers Nexus Ethical Journalism?" And then he changed it to Linus email Steve, and then he changed it to Linus and Gamers Nexus ever be friends again. Now, people with a certain personality type will do this, where you go from being very confrontational to, oh, let's be friends, to this weird emotional manipulation. And I don't like that. I've experienced that for 17 years of my life, and I know it when I see it, and it just kind of, it just twists something in the pit of my stomach, where somebody has a dagger in one hand and a handshake in the other. I don't like that very much. And in this video, he was discussing Steve's coverage of him, and he was putting the word morality on the screen from a dictionary, and he was saying, kind of implying that Steve is not moral because of how he covered what Linus had did. And I believe that he successfully shifted focus from his own actions and his own lack of morality onto somebody else. And one of the things that I'm going to be going into in very great detail in this video is that it's not only Linus that I'm aggravated at. I'm considerably aggravated at Steve from Gamers Nexus for a number of reasons. And one of them here is that he has allowed other people to choose the yardstick by which he's measured, and he never takes that yardstick and tries to measure the people who are applying that standard to him. He has accepted the premise of assholes in many ways. He has changed the way he acts as a result of it, and I'm going to go over how I think that should change. So in that video, he's discussing Steve Burke's video, where he's talking about a company called Honey. What is Honey? For those of you who have not followed this, it's a company that creates a browser extension that is closed source, that tries to find coupon codes for you and then input it when you're checking out on a website. So if you've ever been to oldnavy.com, sketchers.com, newegg.com, any website where you buy stuff, you usually see a little box where you can input a discount code. And sometimes you can get free shipping, sometimes you get 5% off, $2 off, whatever it is. It's annoying to look for these coupon codes because when you Google for a coupon code, 99% of them don't even work anymore. The websites that have these are mostly spam garbage filled with ads, the kind of stuff where you'd really want to have a condom on in your web browser before you visit them. And after you spend 20 minutes searching, you're lucky if you can even get $5 off. So it's nice to have an extension that finds these things for you. This company sponsored a lot of different YouTubers that were very large and very famous to promote this product. And a lot of YouTubers spoke about it, including Linus. A video came out demonstrating that this company is one giant scam. What they were doing is they were stealing affiliate revenue and commissions from people on YouTube. So when you click a link in my video description that says Hacko T30KN, that link is what's called an affiliate link. It lets the vendor know that you got there from my video, and what they'll do is they'll give me 1 or 2 or 4% of what you buy on that website. So if you buy the Hacko soldering iron, I'll get something. If you say, you know what, Louis is an idiot, I'm going to buy a Weller instead, I'll still get the 1 or 2% commission because you sent me there. So you buy this $40 soldering iron tip that you saw me use because you like it, and I'll get 50 cents or $2 or something like that. That's the way it works. They were actually editing and changing this link without letting you know or the creator know. They were doing this in secret, not being open about it, and they would steal the commission. So the criticism in the video that came out, or at least the heavy implication in the video that came out on this company, is that there were YouTubers that knew that this company was scamming people, and they did not come out and say this company is scamming people. They just kind of dropped them as a sponsor without really saying anything. It was one of these things where it's like, I'm going to do this really high visibility video discussing this company on my main channel, and then when they wind up being a scam, you know, people kind of mentioned it on Twitter, and influencers kind of knew about it already, and there's this forum post over here that, you know, like 1% of the people that watch my channel post on, so, which we'll get into this. What bothered me about this thing. So Linus took money to advertise a service that he admits he learned was stealing from people. And Linus's defense in several of his videos has been that I thought they were only scamming these people. I didn't know it was scamming the people that I advertised it to. Like, I only thought it was scamming them, not you. You know, and also the defense was something along the lines of his image. People would be mad at him if for suggesting that they uninstall a browser extension that made Linus less money. Anytime I suggest that you look at one of these videos where he said something, I highly suggest that you listen to the entire video yourself. One of the things I've noticed over the past several weeks is that when listening to a Linus video, many people see this as kind of that Yanni Laurel thing that came out many years ago, where two people can listen to the exact same clip, the exact same quote, and they literally hear different things. And I'm always going to tell you, go there and listen to the whole thing. I'm going to quote sections, but by all means, listen to the whole thing so you can decide for yourself. And it seemed like he was worried about how he'd be perceived and how he'd be torn apart. So I'm going to quote one of these videos. And I quote, "If I told everybody, uninstall Honey, an extension that supposedly gets them a better deal because I wasn't making enough money from it, do you really, honestly, ask yourself, truly, do you think that would have gone well for me?" So Linus is asking his viewers to ask if they think it would have gone well for him. And my first thing, what makes me want to punch my monitor, is that it's not about you. You gave up the right for it to be about you, or your image, or how you think you'd be perceived when you took their money to advertise a closed source browser extension to all of your users. It's not cheap to advertise on Linus's channel. I don't know how much he got paid for making that video, or how many times Honey paid him. I have no idea. I'm going to take a guess that it was more than free. I'm going to take a guess that it was a considerable amount of money. So this is one of the things that goes back to a video that I did about 9 years ago about something I learned from one of my good mentors, Dino, when I was 19. He had a saying, it's, if you're going to be the bitch, you be the whole bitch. Or very similar to what Eddard Stark said in Game of Thrones. He who set the sentence must swing the sword. Or in this case, he who takes 10 or 20 or 50 or $500,000 or whatever to advertise a scam on his YouTube channel must then use that same YouTube channel to tell his audience when he learns that they are a scam. Like, I don't hear him saying, I was dangerously concerned about the data privacy of those users. I don't hear him mentioning that their privacy policy says that they will keep your data for 10 years and that they collect that data and they use it to target ads at you. And above all, the big elephant in the room here is just when later on he gets mad that there's not context that was added. I'm going to add that context, and I'm going to show you why I think it makes it even worse. People who are willing to scam people that are worth tens to hundreds of millions of dollars might be willing to scam people that are worth nothing. I'm just going to throw that out there, that if a company is so brazen that they're willing to steal from people who are worth 10 million, 100 million, or $300 million, because there's some big creators that sponsored this, they're probably, if they're going to steal money from people at that size, they're probably also willing to steal data from the guy that bags groceries at H-E-B. Linus, if he wanted, could afford to hire a top-tier law firm. He could get Quinn and Emanuel on retainer if he wanted to sue these companies and bury them for their misdeeds. And they went after him and still stole from many others. If they're going to steal from people like that, why wouldn't they steal from somebody like you or I? Why wouldn't they steal our data? This is a closed source browser extension. It sees everything that you're doing in your browser. It knows your name because you are checking out on these websites. It knows what you're buying because it can see. It knows the political websites that you go to. It knows the videos you watch. It can build a total and complete profile on you. And God only knows what they are doing with that data. There's a lot of talk on the context that was missing from Steve's video, the additional part of the video clip that he didn't play. And that's what people are really hinging on here. The context that Linus is referring to is what he explained during this January 4th stream. So I'm going to read you the entire thing. 4 years ago, if I'd said, uninstall this extension that gets you a better deal, people that say ad blocking is piracy and that it circumvents compensating the creator, watch how predictably the chat is going to blow up and say that's totally different. It's not totally different. It's related though. It's very closely related. I'm spreading the word for the smaller creators, but that argument doesn't save me here. And it's not going to save me if I tell people to uninstall this extension that gets them a better deal so that small creators can get their affiliate revenue. Are you kidding? There's just no way that I can make that video and I don't have hanging from the nearest tree. I mean, now that we figured out that honey is harming the consumer, obviously, but again, we didn't. I don't know how many times I have to say this. We didn't know about that. We didn't know anything because we didn't say anything because we didn't know. We didn't say anything because we didn't know about that, and we had no reason to. And that's another thing. Like, we don't shout it from the rooftops every time we stop working with a sponsor, and neither does anybody. That is such a weird, bizarre expectation that some people have. Do you expect the NFL to, like, replace Monday Night Football with a 3-hour special about not using Surface tablets anymore when their sponsorship ends? Of course not. We stopped working with a bunch. We've stopped working with a bunch of sponsors because of getting about how they have had bad experiences with them. We didn't, shout it from the rooftops. We just stopped working with them. And the problem is that Linus is such a good parasocial relationship and an actor that people are all defending him for fucking them. So Steve actually did do something very wrong in his video by not including that context. And I agree that that it's wrong because that context makes it even worse. So first things first here. So you're kind of comparing informing your audience about the fact that this company is scamming people with making a 3-hour video. You know that that's bullshit. This is a false dichotomy, and this is done to escape responsibility and accountability, which is part of what I say Linus always does. And every time he does this, he tends to go from being the victimizer to being the victim. It was one of the top voted comments, or in the top voted comments on one of the last apology videos he's done. I don't know, I've lost count of the stuff, where people were making the point that, man, it always seems like one of the top voted comments was, Linus has always talked about how companies respond to criticism and tells you a lot, and always the victim, never the victimizer. So I want you to think about this statement for a moment. I thought it was screwing them. I didn't know it was screwing you. Imagine I have somebody in my house during a barbecue and then my wallet goes missing. I have a hidden camera inside my house and I check it and it shows that Bob stole my wallet. My neighbor has a barbecue the next day, and I don't tell my neighbor that Bob stole from me or warn him because I'm afraid of how that'll affect my image and how people will react to it. I'm concerned about how that would go for me. And let's say that he finds out that somebody paid me $20,000 to $60,000 to say that Bob's a good guy. This is the level that Linus stooped to. And this motherfucker has the gall to put the word morality on screen and read the dictionary definition of that shit to criticize Steve Burke. Steve Burke ain't perfect. He's a flawed man. But get the fuck out of here with that shit. These people that pay you this much money, they're not paying this much money for you to have a fucking forum post made. They're not paying this much money because they read a tweet by somebody that you know. They're paying this much money to be in a high visibility video. In another video, he's talking about how there was a post on our forum about this that somebody made on our forum, and somebody else had made a tweet about this, and there was a Medium post. I had no idea that Honey did this. Do you know why I don't know that Honey did this? Because I don't read your forum. I've seen your videos before. I don't read your forum. I don't read random Medium posts and Twitter blogs. This company paid you for a high visibility video. You know damn well that these people are not paying the same amount of money for a temporary shout out on your forum because your forum has less than 1% of viewership, most likely, of your YouTube channel. I'm just taking a guess there. And that's one of the things that pisses me off here, is that this man that has no standards and no ethics is now going to come out and look at this ungroomed, nerdy man in a t-shirt who builds computers on the internet and tests GPUs and hold him to the standard of a fucking Columbia University PhD journalism student that went on to work at the Financial Times. And if he falls short in one way, well, you didn't do it right, so you shouldn't be criticizing me. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. You have Steve so fucked up over this. I look at his website. I look at how he's changed, how he publishes things over the years. This is called accepting the premise of assholes, that you must be held to the highest standard, but they can be held to none. If you're going to be the bitch and take their money, then you got to be the whole bitch and announce on the same motherfucking channel that you posted that ad that you learned that they're a scammer. It's not about you. It's not about your image. You gave up the right to care about your image or be concerned about your image or how it would go or how it would be perceived when you took their fucking money. How about you let me decide if I want to use a closed source browser extension that's made by a bunch of scammers that has access to all my personal data so I could save $2 when I check out at oldnavy.com? How about you let me decide that for myself instead of having concern for your fucking image over my well-being? I don't care if there was a Twitter post somewhere saying that this was a scam. I don't care if there's a forum post somewhere saying that this is a scam. You took the money to post this shit on your main YouTube channel, and you get paid this much money to post shit on your main YouTube channel because it's high visibility. I don't want to see that shit where it's page 1 for the misinformation and page 28 and little text in the fine print at the bottom when you do a retraction and, oh, look, I did that already and I kind of, I was afraid about my image and I thought they were only screwing this group of people. I had no idea that people who were willing to scam people worth $100 million may scam my users as well. Do you expect the NFL to replace Monday Night Football with a 3-hour special about not using Surface tablets anymore when their sponsorship ends? Of course not. That's a false dichotomy. What you've done is you've taken a legitimate criticism from the audience. You have then compared it to something that's completely different to make the audience members who criticized you look ridiculous so that you can deflect accountability and responsibility. That's a 90-second short. You don't have to do a 3-hour-long retraction, you manipulative fuck. That's some bullshit. That's bitch shit right there. What you're doing is you're deflecting accountability and responsibility. You're avoiding it, and then you're twisting what people are saying in your audience to something ridiculous to make them look ridiculous when they don't have to. That's bitch shit. That's child shit. That's not being a grown woman or a grown man. That's being a child. I don't respect that. You know damn fucking well, Linus, that nobody was asking for a 3-hour retraction or for you to stop your programming. They were asking you to do this. You turn on your camera phone while you're waiting in line at the bank or after you wake up or while you're on the toilet and you do this. Hey, everybody. We were sponsored by a company called Honey. They create a browser extension that allows you to save money by taking discount codes and implementing them automatically when you check out on websites online. We recently figured out that their entire business model is based on scamming content creators by stealing their affiliate revenue and stealing their commissions. If you want to keep using this browser extension because it's working for you, by all means keep using it. I'm not here to tell you what you do with your computer. I just wanted to let you know this, and I felt like we needed to disclose it because I'm concerned that a company that is brazen enough to steal from people worth $10 to $100 million might also be willing to do nefarious things with data from people that don't have the money for a law firm to go after them if they do something screwy. This browser extension has a privacy policy where it says they keep your data for 10 years. It is closed source. Browser extensions can see almost everything you're doing in your web browser, and they admit that they're collecting your data and saving it for 10 years. And because it's closed source, we can't really know what it does. If you want to keep using it, by all means, keep using it. But in the interest of full disclosure, I needed to tell you this so that you understood the full implications of it. We're going to try and vet our sponsors a little bit better in the future. My bad. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next video. Shit takes 2 fucking minutes, and you could have done that on the goddamn toilet. And you're comparing it to a 3-hour-long fucking retraction? Are you serious? And you're pretending that you would have to stop doing your content and program for this? That's a false dichotomy, and that's bitch shit. Because that's the type of thing you do when you want to avoid accountability and responsibility. I am very mad at Steve Burke for not including that context in the video that he did. He should have included that clip because that clip is very important. It demonstrates just how far you'll go to scrape the bottom of the barrel when it comes to caring about your image and how it'll go for you over the well-being of your viewers. This is why I called you an actor in the email that I sent you. I'll include a copy of that down below. Somehow you managed to shift the focus from not disclosing the actions of scammers because you're more interested in your self-image to whether or not Steve Burke included the last 15 seconds of a clip that makes you look even worse. All these people are saying, why didn't you play the whole clip? Steve didn't play the ends of the clip. If you had their context, you'd see that he was right. It's like, the context makes this worse. Like this, how fucking stupid does Linus think his viewers are? Really? You're comparing doing a 45-second retraction to canceling your entire programming to make a 3-hour video. How fucking stupid does this man think you are? You know what's sad, knowing Steve personally? Do you know the reason that he left that context out? He left that context out because that context makes you look worse. And this video was not supposed to be about you. But you always manage to make shit about you. Go figure. He left that out because leaving that context in, where you make that ridiculous false analogy to a Monday night football game being canceled in a 3-hour retraction, when all that was necessary was a 90-second video, makes you look like a manipulator. When you say, I mean, who's always announcing when they stop working with their sponsor? Well, how about you? You announced when you stopped working with your sponsor right here, and then you kept working with them anyway, and you're probably going to say, well, that video was in the pipeline, so what about this? This was like 8 months later. Look at this, Aces, sponsored by Aces. He did not want this video to become a referendum on you, and he knew that if he left this clip in, this literally makes you look worse. How about you want to talk about right to reply and why didn't you contact him? If you actually lived up to your own yardstick, which is what I tell Steve to do to you all the time, and he better start doing that. If you actually lived up to the yardstick by which you were measuring Steve, you would have contacted Steve and say, hey, why didn't you include the rest in that video? And he would have said, because it makes you look like a fucking idiot, and I didn't want that video to be about you. And I hope Steve Burke understands this. He went out of his way to try and live up to your yardstick. He actually wanted to avoid more confrontation with you. And what happened as a result of that is he got more of it. So he needs to understand that he needs to stop accepting the premise of assholes. I hope Steve learned the very important lesson that I've been trying to tell him for a really long time. You cannot accept the premise of assholes. Do not let people who hate you choose the yardstick by which you are measured. You take that yardstick and you measure them to see if they live up to the standard they want you to. And if they don't, you take their yardstick, you break it over your knee, and you shove it up their ass. I did a video on what it means to be a real influencer, and it might do you some good to watch it. The man I talk about in that video was willing to have his reputation dragged through the mud for years if it meant there was even a 1% chance of making the life of a few kids in the ghetto a little bit better. You're not willing to be honest with 14 million people if it gets a little bit of dust on your shoulder. You're not the same. And then you leverage that parasocial relationship you have with your audience so that they're actually running around defending you for not being fully upfront with them. You are an influencer. You're a bad influence, because you're influencing people to not take accountability and responsibility for their actions. And now this man that has no standards and no ethics is going to come out here and look at this fucking ungroomed, nerdy guy in a t-shirt who builds computers on the internet and try to hold him to the standards of a Columbia University PhD journalism student that went on to work at the Financial Times. And if he falls short in a single way, well, you don't have the right. You didn't give me the right to reply. You did this wrong. And then he puts the word morality on screen and starts reading the fucking definition of it to imply that this guy, like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. That is called accepting the premise of assholes. That Steve must be held to the highest standard, but Linus should be held to none. And I don't accept the premise of assholes. And I've yelled at Steve Burke about this. You are allowing other people to choose the yardstick by which you are measured, instead of taking that yardstick, trying to measure the people who are using it on you, and then saying, it seems like you don't care about this. Get the fuck out of here. I've been reading Steve's website over the past year, and if you just look at the language he's using, he has gone so far out of his way to try to sound like somebody from the fucking professional law review instead of being who he is. A guy that reviews GPUs, a nerd that looks at GPUs, benchmarks them, and goes over when companies scam people and puts the receipts on the screen. That's who Steve is. That's what his audience wants him to be. Steve's core audience doesn't want him to type up shit that looks like it came from the fucking Columbia University PhD School of Journalism or law. That's not who he is, but you guys have twisted him into that shit by using this different fucking yardstick to measure him. And he actually fell for the premise of assholes, and he's doing that. And I've been telling him, you got to stop that shit. He's got a section of his website where he's actually split up every company he's gone into, and right to reply, no right to reply, didn't comment. Like, I have never in my life seen this shit. He has literally redone his website to accept the premise of assholes. This entire thing makes me sick because no website does this shit. When you go to Bloomberg.com, sometimes the news page will say, we have contacted Senator XY fuckface to ask for their reply or what they think of this. But a lot of the times they comment on people and they talk about people and they cover news stories where there's no reaching out to the person because they don't have to, because this is a meme. This is a standard that is being applied to Steve Burke, a fucking nerd that reviews graphics cards, that half of the time is not even applied to real journalists. This entire page is a case study in Steve accepting the premise of assholes. He spent time rewriting his website. He spent time changing how he speaks, who he is, how he writes, so that he could hopefully measure up to people that will never accept him, that will never listen to what he have to say. This is like the tone policing shit. When people say, I'd support right to repair if only if Louis wasn't saying it. But then when Nathan Proctor talk about it or Kevin O'Reilly talk about it, they brush it off. And when I talk about it, they go, okay, I listen, but I don't like it because it was him. It's tone policing. You're accepting the premise of assholes. You're changing who you are. You're changing how you act, and you're not supposed to do that for people that hate you. If this page is not replaced with a picture of Mr. Clinton within the next 2 hours, I'm flying over to North Carolina and pouring more water on your server than my clients do on their MacBooks. Get this shit out of here. Right to reply. I keep hearing about this. The right to reply. Why didn't you give me my right to reply? Right to reply to Linus means right to spin a story the way I want it to be spun. It means right to PR. See, right to reply is for something like this. Hello, Senator Rossman. I'm Jay calling from YBS News Network, and we'd like to get a response on this idea that you have fucked a pig and cheated on your wife. Huh? Where'd you hear that? Black Mirror, Episode 1. No, see, that's a television show, and I wasn't in that show, so no. Thank you, Mr. Rossman. That's all print. Right to reply is about bullshit, false allegations that have no evidence. You guys have never cared about this in the past on my channel. For 13 years, you've never cared about this when I go over a story. When Charlie Brown goes in front of the Washington State Senate and says that if you go to an independent repair shop, you may get TikTok installed on your phone. And then it gets found out that one of the companies that he represents, Samsung, which was on their website, was actually pre-installing TikTok on people's phones. You don't ask me why I didn't call up Charlie Brown and say, hey, Charlie Brown, it looks like from objective evidence in your own testimony that you lied to the Washington State Senate. Would you like to put a PR spin on that for your own audience? That's not how this shit works. When Kerry Kadolshish at NHTSA decided that she was going to ignore a judge for 2 years that was asking for input on the Massachusetts ballot initiative for right to repair, and she ignores them for 2 years. And then one day after this comes into law, she decides to send a letter to every automotive manufacturer telling them to ignore this law. And I point out the fact that several years ago, before she went to become a top regulator, she was working at a firm that lobbied on behalf of automakers. None of you asked me to call her. None of you got mad that I didn't go, hey, Kerry, automotive industry lobbyist from several years back. It looks like you ignored a judge for several years. It looks like there's a record of that. And then you sent a complete pile of bullshit over to every automaker asking them to ignore a law that was passed democratically via ballot initiative and approved by a judge. Would you like to explain why you did that? When Sarah Faye Pierce from AHAM shows up to a hearing in Nebraska and then says that magnetometers and microwaves may explode if this law gets passed, none of you complained to me in 7 years and said, why didn't you give her a right to reply? Why didn't you call her and say, hello, Miss Pierce, it looks like you made up a word that doesn't exist, and then said that this magical fantasy item called a magnetometer may explode. Can you explain why you lied to the Senate in Nebraska? And can you explain why you made up an item that doesn't exist? And can you please provide a citation for why it explodes? Please put a PR spin on that for your audience before I explain it. Like, that right to reply is a meme here. It's right to PR. It's right to constantly have some sort of bullshit little nitpicky detail that I can use to spin a story in my favor. It's disgusting. It's being used as a method to avoid accountability and responsibility. And I have watched Steve Burke change his entire fucking website. I've watched him change the way he presents things. He changes the way he talks. He changes the way he writes because he's accepting the premise of assholes. He's accepting that people who have no morality and ethics in their own fucking advertising. Again, you'll take the money on the main channel to advertise it, but God forbid you make a fucking mention on the main channel of it. I got to go to Twitter. I got to go to Medium. I got to go to some random forum to figure out that this company's full of shit. I have 2 million subscribers. I use affiliate links. I didn't know about Honey. You know why I didn't know about Honey? Because I watched your channel. I don't read your fucking forum. I don't read random shit on Twitter. I don't go searching on Medium for a product that somebody recommended to me 2 years ago on a high visibility YouTube channel. And you know that. This man, there's no ethics and morals regarding this shit, is going to have the fucking word morality from the dictionary on the screen and be reading it and using that as a yardstick to get the fuck out of here with that shit. I see the standard that I hold myself to, and I don't even think it's a high one when a company doesn't even pay me. There's a piece of repair shop software called Repair Shopper, and it's awesome. You could hook it up to your phone system. It does all sorts of cool stuff. Here I did a 22-part video series on how to set up a phone system that you can use with Repair Shopper. And I've also done other videos promoting this piece of software because it works really well, and I thought my viewers would make use of it since I have a lot of repair shop viewers. I never got paid to do these videos, ever. Never. I was not sponsored by Repair Shopper. Recently, they started screwing people, and they did this bullshit where they're using AI to collect the data and train it and do all this messed up shit, and I decided to do a video on it. It was all caps. Opt out of Repair Shopper data collection now. A nice, very, very provocative thumbnail over here. And I also followed up later. I never even thought about my self-interest or my business while I was doing this. I had to have one of my employees point out to me, hey, Louis, you realize we're still using this and it's going to take us a month or two to migrate off, right? So when you do these videos and you piss them off, and if we haven't migrated yet, we're kind of fucked. It never even entered my mind that like, to care about my business first. I have 2 million subscribers. I told people on my main YouTube channel to use this. People who watch my channel may have switched over to this piece of software. So the first thing that I need to do is rush over to this channel and let them know to stop using it immediately. I was the bitch. I recommended the software on my main channel. Therefore, I must be the whole bitch and tell people to opt out of this piece of software on my high visibility YouTube channel. I'm not going to take this and put that on my throwaway live channel for koi fish. I'm not going to take this and put it on boards.rossmangroup.com. I'm not going to make a pinned message in my Discord because I realize that people are not looking for that message there. I told them about this on the main channel. Therefore, I tell them to leave on the main channel. If I have that standard for myself about something that I did not even take money for, why is it wrong that we have that standard for influencers that have built $20 to $100 million companies off of advertising shit? I don't think it's a lot to ask. Next I want to go over is the part that has twisted my stomach more than all, and this is something I should have went public with 5 or 6 years ago. I strongly regret not doing that, because God only knows how many people he's tried to manipulate in a very similar way to this. This is a screenshot of, I'll explain the entire context of it, but this is a screenshot of an email that I got from Linus after announcing why I wasn't attending LTX in 2019, after going back and forth 2 or 3 times where they said they wanted me to pay for my +1 to show up. The email here that makes me sick is, I also really don't understand or agree with your overall tone. Don't act like this relationship has been all give and no take for you. Yeah, you helped us fix this iMac, but we were perfectly capable of that, and you actually broke it during your rough handling, causing us to have to send it out for repairs again. I kept quiet about it, and I absorbed that because I appreciated your involvement for the sake of our fans. You damaged the motherboard. I have a bill for the repair if you truly believe I'm a liar and I must waste time digging it up. You laughed it off in the moment saying, well, I'm a laptop tech. We had that system deployed for years to one of our graphics designers. So what are we talking about here? So there was this series about a broken iMac that Linus had done. One of his employees broke an iMac, Apple refused to fix it. It was part of a 3 or 4 part story on his channel where he was doing about this iMac. And he asked if I would show up to be on camera while they're working on it. This is, it's for show. It's for show. It's people like seeing their favorite YouTubers on camera. If there's an audience crossover or audience overlap, they like seeing that on the screen. He has an iMac Apple refuses to fix. I'm the Apple right to repair guy. So, you know, like, it makes sense. So they asked if I would show up for this. They offered to pay for my flight. I was on vacation at the time with my girlfriend. She actually surprised me with a vacation to Canada, and it was actually very, very close to where his office was. So I told him, I appreciate this, but I'm actually already going to be here. Like, I'm not going to take their money when I'm already going to be there. It just seems kind of skeevy. Like, yeah, I'll take your money for my flight that I already booked because I'm going to be on vacation here anyway. Like, it's an Uber ride away from my hotel to get to Linus's office, so no big deal. I go there, fix the iMac, whatever, we work on it, and, like, you know, I show up on camera, I have my dry humor, and we're done. A year and a half later, when asking me to show up to LTX again and not wanting to, like, cover the travel for my +1, he takes out this little abacus that he has in his fucking pocket. He's keeping score of perceived debts and favors. He's using past generosity as leverage. He's minimizing the benefit from a collaboration. He's shifting blame onto me while presenting himself as magnanimous. Like, I kept quiet and absorbed that. Well, thank you very much, Saint fucking Sebastian. I really appreciate that. He demands a high visibility retraction. He tries to control a narrative. He switches this victimhood thing by accusing me of spinning a story, and he turns a business decision into a personal attack. He gaslights me by saying I seem emotional when my email is actually quite measured and business focused. The most telling part of this is that he took a very simple business decision and he dug into this little bag of guilt and he pulled something out just to manipulate me a year and a half later.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Let's go over all the reasons that this is disgusting. So I'm going to provide you with the context, and then I will also provide you with some examples so that you can have an idea of just how ridiculously manipulative this is. So firstly, this story spanned about 3 or 4 videos. When you look at the amount of money that it costs to be in a Linus video as a sponsor, this video made a lot of money. Just this video made so many more times that board repair the worth of that iMac in and of itself. Even if I broke it, I'm not going to accept the premise that I broke it. I don't think I broke it. But let's say I did break it. Let's say that let's say that I dropped it, like Linus has done to hardware in his videos more often than Mr. Clinton raids the fucking closet to steal my greenies. Let's say that I dropped it. Let's say I broke it. The point of that video was not the economically viable repair of that iMac. The point of that video was to create a story for the audience, a story that would allow for the creation of hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars when fully monetized. So you have a video that's probably making $30 or $60 or $200 or $300,000, and you're now nitpicking a year and a half later about a board repair.
Ugh.
That iMac is a prop. Like, and you're really like digging into that, saying like that computer was deployed for a year to a video workstation. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? If there's a problem with that, you take the backup from that and you put that backup from that video workstation into any one of the other 50 or 100 computers that you could build with all of the free components that you've gotten over the years from all these manufacturers. You're really trying to convince me that was like that was really harmful to you, like that really hurts you. That's disgusting. Even if you take the money out of it, it's disgusting. Like, but the money there is just the salt on the wound. But this type of manipulation in general, I'll give you an example. Let's say that somebody like Steve Burke comes to my shop, right? He visits my store, and he is on camera fixing a motherboard. This video made $1,100. That motherboard's like $500 to $600 that I'm working on in that particular video at that time. Let's say Steve Burke works on the board, I work on the board, everything goes fine. 4 years later, I create a consumer protection wiki. His channel's starting to get more into consumer protection. And I say, hey, Steve, are you open to sharing a shout out to my consumer protection wiki on your channel? Sure, that's great, Louis. Yeah, I'll do it. A few days go by, I see Steve Burke released a new video and it doesn't include my wiki. And I call him up and I say, hey, Steve, where's my wiki entry? Where's my shout out? Don't act like this relationship has been all give and no take with us. When you showed up 4 years ago and you worked on that motherboard, that actually came back. I had to fix that thing again. You damaged it. You want to see the repairable to see that you damaged it? Yeah, you broke it. So do what I want.
What's that? What's that, brother?
That's such a fucking disgusting, manipulative, shitty way to talk to somebody. That would be disgusting in a circumstance where the board is $500 and the video made me $1,100. That's infinitely more disgusting when we're talking about an iMac motherboard repair within the context of a video series that made hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's take another example of this. Creator, Paul Daniels. Paul Daniels has a YouTube channel that's smaller than mine. Let's say that I had RossCon and he showed up to RossCon because he was on vacation in Texas with his family. And next year I say, hey, Paul Daniels, you want to come to RossCon again? And he's like, well, I got my business to take care of and everything. And I'm not, I don't really, I wasn't going to be in America again. It's really expensive for a flight. Well, we can cover a flight for you, but we won't be able to cover a flight for your wife. You would have to come here by yourself. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to pay for my own flight to show up to an event that you're charging $200 at the door for. It's not like, I got to run my business. I'm sorry. Well, you know, Paul, that software that you made, Flex Board View, you know that software, that actually has a couple of bugs in it. You know, I shouted out that software several times. Don't act like this relationship has been all give and no take for you. I shouted out your software and I shouted out your channel when it was small. And that software, it actually has some bugs in it. There's some bugs in that software that I've talked about quite a lot. There is actually several repairs that we didn't complete because of the bugs in that software. So you should think about that and do what I want. Fucking disgusting. When I talk about the bugs in Paul Daniels' software, I'm joking. I don't actually mean that so that a year or 2 or 3 years later, I can use that to guilt him into doing what I want. That's fucking disgusting. When Linus made a comment about me handling the board and I said, oh yeah, I'm a laptop tech, that was dry humor. That was a joke. I didn't actually mean I'm trying to break your shit. Linus drops shit on his channel all the time. He drops stuff on his channel that costs a lot of money, more often than Mr. Clinton steals greenies out of my closet. So I thought that you were joking, so I responded in kind with a joke along the same line, knowing that this is a channel meme. And you took that joke, you manipulated it into like I'm trying to break your fucking motherboard so that you can hold it against me years later when you've made hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars off of this video series? Are you fucking kidding me? So that I could show up to your for-profit company's conference that you're charging people at the door for, saying, look, you'll get to see all your favorite creators. You can see Jay's 2 cents and Louis Rossman and everybody else. There are people that probably went to that conference thinking they may be able to see me. And I was willing to show up for free. All I asked, can you pay for the +1? And you're not willing to do that. I'm allowed to say no. I'm not a shareholder in Linus Media Group. And this goes back to what I've been saying this whole time. Whether or not your conference is profitable is irrelevant to me because it's not about you. You're asking me to do something for you. You're asking me to drop my business and fly to go to your country, to go to your conference for no money. And I'm saying, yes, I'll do that. Can you allow me to not tell my girlfriend that I'm sorry, I have to spend the week away from you. We can't do anything together because I have to fly to Canada and make Linus money. You know, my business has services that are loss leaders. There's a keyboard replacement. Not a keyboard, there's a keycap replacement thing. We'll replace keycaps if somebody messed up the butterfly mechanism. We never charge for this because it seems like you're nickel and diming the customer. So we'll do that loss leader service, and the idea is that later on, when you need your data recovered, instead of going to the place at the mall that charges $60 and fucks up your phone, they'll come here and pay $500 for us to get the data back properly without fucking up their phone. It's a loss leader. It's part of our overall business strategy. All businesses have loss leaders of some type. Imagine if I looked at one of my employees when he was doing this, if he stayed late to fix somebody's keycap, and he goes to input his overtime, and I look at him and straight in the face and I go, oh, don't input your overtime. I actually lost money off of that. We don't make money off of that service. It's not about me. It's not about whether I'm making money. I asked him to stay late. I asked him to do this. It's on me to pay him the overtime. The service I'm asking you to do, not making money, is irrelevant because it is part of the overall business strategy, and the business itself makes money. So for me to say, I'm not going to pay you for this, or I can't cover this because this particular part of my business doesn't make money, it is not the business of my employee. That is irrelevant to him. Whether or not the thing I'm asking him to do makes money is irrelevant to him. And in my case, my business makes money even if that service doesn't make money, and that specific service that doesn't make money is part of a greater strategy to ensure that my business makes money and grows its name. I'm not entitled to your money. I'm not asking for your money. I didn't ask to go to your conference. I'm not asking you to pay me to go to your conference. But if you want me to go to your conference and you're asking me to go to your conference that you're charging people money for, you can cover an economy ticket for myself and my girlfriend, so that I'm not away from my business for a week and her and have to tell people, like, just fuck out of here with this shit. Moving onwards here. It's awesome, and yeah, we can take care of assembly or disassembly. It's just for effect. It's wrestling. This video was wrestling. It's not real. Like, Linus didn't need me to show up to fix the Mac. We're doing it on camera as entertainment. It's entertainment for you so that you watch. When you watch, he has more views. When he has more views, he can get more sponsors. When he gets more sponsors, he can make more money. When he makes more money, he gets the $1 or the $2 or the $400,000 for the video that makes it so fucking ridiculous that we're even talking about a motherboard. He's mad that I didn't clarify the story. So let's be clear on the story. This is one of the mistakes that I made, actually. When you look at the email history, you can very obviously tell the point at which either one of my female friends, either Anna or Jessa, I forget, but it was one of them took the keyboard away from me as I was probably typing "go fuck yourself" and wrote something that really doesn't sound like I wrote it. I'm happy to help you book flights, but unfortunately we're way over budget, not able to cover our cost. Me, I hear what you're saying. It's understandable that you wouldn't want to spend on this when you're already over budget. Last year, I didn't mind paying for my own hotel and airfare for the iMac video and LTX event since I was already planning a vacation. But this year I wasn't, so I'd be making a trip away from work just for this. Thank you. Next. We're still willing to pay for your hotel and airfare. She's more than welcome to share. It's just the extra airfare for her that we can't cover, unfortunately. That's the second no. After the second no, I had already let go of an employee. I had to train a new employee. There's no going back now. It doesn't matter if you offer to pay for a ticket. It doesn't matter if you offer me $500,000. I can't go. I got to train this new employee so that he doesn't break shit for people. And when somebody asked me on stream why I wasn't going to this conference, I was honest. I said because I asked twice if they'd be open to paying for my +1 when I paid my way last year, and they said no. Linus was mad because that made him look like a cheapskate. And guess what, Linus? If I was typing that email instead of my friend, which admittedly now I don't know why I let her take the keyboard from me. Maybe it was a good thing, maybe it wasn't. And that's what I keep going over here. If you're going to be the bitch, be the whole bitch. If you want to nickel and dime me, then you have to deal with the consequences of nickel and diming me. I'm not entitled to your money, and I'm not entitled to go to your conference. But if you want to ask me to go to your conference, then you're going to do it based on my terms. It's not about you. I can't ask Paul Daniels to leave his business and then come to America to show up to my for-profit conference and then say, well, my conference is not making money, Paul, so you don't understand. You have to show up for free, and you have to pay your own airfare because I'm not making money. That's not how this works. And if he says no to that ridiculous offer, then I'm not allowed to go, well, your software has bugs in it, and those bugs actually cause some of our repairs to not be done properly, so you really owe me. That's disgusting. That's bitch shit.
Brother, ugh.
That's manipulative. That's not the way a grown woman or a grown man acts. That's the way a child, that's the way a toddler that is having a tantrum acts. That's the way that somebody who believes the world is all about them acts. Do you see a pattern? Next up, there was this whole trust me bro warranty thing. And I did a video on it, and I feel like I pulled my punches, but I pulled my punches for the wrong reason. Linus had donated about $20K to this right to repair nonprofit, and a lot of people who are friends with me who've seen this shit and seen what he's said to other people, we've been picking on me because they've been subtly implying that I've kind of pulled my punches because I subconsciously feel like I owe him something or something like that. And he brought it up in a recent email to me. It's like, oh, look at the things that I've done for you. And that's when I realized, oh no, ew. This bothers me because of the whole concept of being an influencer. Being an influencer means that we try to set a good influence for our audience. And this was a really great way to try. This is a great example of how he could have united his entire audience about a consumer rights issue in a really serious way. And he could have set an example of what they need to expect from other companies. And instead of doing that, he made it all about him. Warranty law in the United States is a joke. I've been talking about this since like 2018, long before any of this trust me bro shit. Over the past few years, companies who break warranty law in the United States serve no consequences, none whatsoever. They could be fined $40K plus an instance, and the most progressive FTC chair of our time has fined these companies that break warranty laws $0, nothing. And the new FTC chair that's coming in is actually worse than her regarding consumer rights. So yeah, it's going to be fair play for everybody to pretty much get away with murder. This stuff matters. We may laugh about it, but our ability to say that we own something we bought from a company and expect basic support is going away. If somebody points out that my business is missing a warranty page on my website, I'm a business owner that takes accountability and responsibility. It's not all about me. I know that I'm a trustworthy person. I have good reviews. I know that I tell my employees to treat people right, but it's not about me. It's about them. It's about them spending money with me and feeling comfortable because I have a written warranty. So I write out the warranty policy on my website for what it is that we offer. Somebody who wants to deflect accountability and responsibility is going to make it about them. Why don't you trust me? And then make merchandise mocking people that have consumer rights concerns. Monetizes it by not only talking about it routinely, but then he sells merchandise that pits one part of the audience against the other. He's making fun of the audience members that actually cared about consumer protection. If we take this to its logical conclusion, why do we even have privacy policies? Why do we have employment contracts? Why is a small business that's replacing the windows in my house have me sign something? Don't they know I'm famous on the internet? Don't they know how great I am? I have 4.9 stars on Google reviews. I'm the right to repair guy. I care about people. You don't need a deposit, man. Just trust me, bro. Like, it's bullshit because it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about my ego. It's not about how great I think I am. It's not about what I've done in the past. I run a business. He runs a business. My business is a warranty policy. His business is a contract. Linus starts saying, oh, well, if businesses wanted to screw you over, they could screw you over if they really wanted to, even with a warranty policy. I guarantee you don't run your business like that. Is your employment contract trust me, bro? I guarantee it isn't. Can your employees start their own YouTube and Twitch channels? Can your employees even talk about pay with one another? I don't think they can. I am confident that the same person who's saying that warranties written are not really that important because the company can always screw you is probably having his employees sign employment contracts before they start that dictate what they are and are not allowed to do. Can they start their own YouTube or Twitch channels talking about hardware? Do you trust them not to start their own YouTube channels, or do you have it in writing? Can they discuss their pay with other employees? Because these are things that my employees are all allowed to do. Are yours? They can't because you don't let them. This is a bad influence. Not only do you have a different standard for yourself than you have for others, but you're good enough of a cult of personality to convince people that this is actually funny. You aren't the one who even recommended that shirt. Your fans were recommending that you make that shirt. You had a chance there, an honest chance to be an influencer, a good influencer to other people, a good influencer to your 14 million people in your audience. You could have told them, hey man, I felt some type of way when you guys didn't really seem to trust me and you wanted a written policy, because I've always covered anybody that has a problem with our products. But you're right, consumer rights are being eroded everywhere, and we should have a written warranty policy. Even me, I want you to hold businesses that you like and care about and trust to the same standard as everybody else. I got to be held to the same standard as everybody else. Here's our warranty policy. Instead of doing that, you allowed your fan base to devolve into this consumer rights advocates on one side and parasocial defenders on the other. As they're going at it, you're selling merchandise based on making fun of the people who held you to a standard that you want other businesses to be held to, that they should be holding every other business to. My channel has had no sponsors for 13 years, and the merchandise that I sell does not mock my audience because they care about consumer rights. I'm not pitting this section of my audience against this section of my audience on issues that matter just because of my own fucking ego. And I'm not trying to get the parasocial part of my audience to defend me when I'm doing something that, frankly, no company should be defended for doing. You want your audience to just trust you when it comes to warranty, but then when it comes to your employees, it seems like there's something different going on there. We're not the same. I don't want to be like you. I did a post on something that my ex-employee got me when he moved out of the house we were renting. He went back to New York to do his own thing because he had to take care of family. I didn't point to words in an employment contract telling him he can't compete. Rather, I went over what Steve did for me in a video. I went over what it meant to have him for 11 years as one of my best employees. And I went over one of the nicest things anybody has ever done for me. He took some pictures that were ripped up by my mother, who was not the best person in the world, and he actually had them professionally restored for me the day before he left. And I showed that on camera, and he went from something like 5 reviews to over 120 5-star reviews in a few hours. And I have a confession to make. I was kind of hoping that would happen. I wasn't hoping for there to be fake reviews saying that he did stuff he didn't do, but I wanted people to see Steve the way that I see him, for who he really is. I wanted that value to shine through accordingly. I wanted him to be successful doing what he does, even if it's not working for my company. And you have a different standard that you set for yourself versus what you set for other people. I guarantee you, your employees don't work under that trust me, bro bullshit. Going back to that video that you did about Steve, where you changed the title of it 3 times, and you had the word morality in there from the dictionary, and you're reading the definition of it. Steve, there's a screenshot in that video of a message you said that you sent Steve. And I asked Steve to read it to me over the phone. And Steve was confused because he said, I never got that message. That's strange. And he says, that was sent to my other phone. Interesting. I'll tell you another thing that pisses me off about Steve from time to time. You ever watch a romantic comedy? I hate rom-coms. The only thing I hate more than rom-coms is influencer culture. But there's always these two-dimensional characters in these romantic comedies. There'll be like some woman that's playing a ditz, and she'll just wonder, why are all these men being so nice to me? As she's scantily dressed or something like that. And like, that's Steve. That's Steve when dealing with people like you. So when you did that video, you changed the title on 3 times. You had the definition of the word morality on screen and you were reading it. There was a text message that you were showing that you had sent Steve. And you made a remark about how you sent this to Steve to try and work with him, but he never replied to you. He never replied to the text you sent. So Steve's telling me about this message and he reads it to me. And Steve says, I didn't get this message. This is weird. I never got this. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like it got sent to my other phone. I asked Steve about the history of his phone numbers, and apparently Steve had his number changed several years ago, and he alerted everybody to it, including you. So I asked Steve, how often has Linus texted you on this old phone? And he says, never. I asked Steve, how often do you talk to Linus on your new phone? Oh, many times. We've talked several times in this new phone. He messaged me when his channel got hacked. He's messaged me back and forth about other things. So this one text message that would make you look really bad if you didn't reply to it, that he showed on screen later in a video where he's defining morality and showing how you don't live up to it, is a message that he sent to a phone number he knows you don't use anymore after several months of manipulating you. And then Steve gets it. This is the stuff that makes my skin crawl, because I was there. I was there when he said some shit to get me to say, oh yeah, I'm a laptop tech. He took that thing and then 18 months later, he used it to manipulate me and make me look bad or feel bad. So Linus explicitly texts an outdated number that Steve has not used since 2021, in spite of knowing Steve's current number for emergencies, like during the channel hack, and then publicly presents himself as the wounded party who never got a response. This, in my opinion, that's a calculated move to control the narrative. Linus is painting himself as a victim while making Steve look like the callous guy that didn't respond. It's manipulation of facts to create a false narrative, playing victim while knowing the full context, as public image management at the expense of the truth, and using selective information to damage someone else's reputation. That's classic narcissistic manipulation. I find that shit disgusting. Just like the email that he sent me. Just like this thing where it's always about him and he can't take accountability or responsibility for anything. We're not the same. We may both be influencers, but we're not the same. Steve Burke does not want to be like you. I do not aspire to be like you. If I put my best interests and my image above my audience's well-being, I want them to unsubscribe from me. If I argue with my customers over having a written warranty policy because it wounded my poor ego and self-image, they should trust me. Look, I've always done the right thing. I want them to stop using my business. If I have employment contracts like this, I want my employees to quit. All of this stuff will be necessary. It will be a necessary catalyst for self-reflection and change. I have failed and fucked up more times than I can count in life. I know I'm a fuck up. But on behalf of myself and others, I try to not judge myself on how I fail. I judge myself in my conduct and picking myself back up. I asked if you want to figure out why you are the way that you are. I know why I am the way that I am. It was a long journey to figure out. I had a fucked up childhood. What happens from the age of when you're born to 17 is not on you. What happens from the age of 18 and onwards, that's on us. We got to figure that shit out. I watched that video Linus did in 2020 where he's questioning everything, what he was doing, his impact on the world. And he mentioned getting made fun of and called these names in school and being picked on. I have full sympathy for people who had crappy childhoods. From birth to 17 is not your fault. You didn't choose that. From 18 and onwards, that's on you and that's on me. The problem with people like me, the problem with us, my boss, other successful people, people that have way more money than my boss, we're too successful for our own good. That includes me. Linus is probably worth 100 to 200 times as much money as I am. I'm just guessing there, but probably 100 to 200 times as much. But it's the same principle that applies. We're both too successful for our own good. And I've told my boss this many times at Futo, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. For you to be worth over $20 million in your early 20s and to be worth billions of dollars in your 40s, you would have to be completely irrational to take my advice without seriously challenging it. If somebody with 20 YouTube subscribers criticizes my strategy and how I can improve my channel and get engagement, at 2 million subscribers, I'm not going to take them seriously. If someone with 6 reviews on Google Maps tells me what I really need to do if I want successful reviews for my business, when I have over 1,700 5-star Google reviews, I'm not going to take them seriously. I'm not worth 1% of what Linus is worth, but that doesn't mean I'm not in a privileged position in contrast to a lot of people in this economy. The point being is that the problem with people like us is nobody checks us. And when they do check us, we check out. For you to get as far as you have by being you, it would almost be irrational to take someone else's advice and just change on a dime. In our position, we need people who will constantly check us to ensure that we remember. While the good part of us got us this far, we could have gotten even further without the bad part. When I see that phone number shit back and forth with Steve Burke, that shit makes me sick. Because you tried to do that type of shit to me in 2019. And I lived with somebody for 17 years that did that type of gaslighting shit to me. It made me sick. I don't like seeing it. It's a pattern. It's a pattern that I've pointed out here, and it's a pattern that many other people in your audience have pointed out regularly. You don't handle criticism properly. You're never wrong. It's always about you and your self-image. Now, this is not addressed to Linus or his audience. This is addressed to the dozens of people that I've heard from that have experienced similar bullying, who have not come out because they don't want to be deemed as brand unsafe. They don't want to become a pariah in their industry, and they don't want to ruffle the feathers of somebody who is this spiteful and manipulative. I felt a turn in the pit of my stomach in 2019 when I got those emails. Steve felt a turn in the pit of his stomach when he, like I, realized why you sent that message to the wrong phone when you said on stream, you made him look callous on stream by virtue of him not replying to it. This message is to the dozens of people that have likely experienced similar bullying. This message is also to the people that I know have, because you've messaged me it and you haven't released your interactions with him. 5 years ago, I had a conversation with somebody who was in the independent repair provider program by Apple. There was a lot that he wanted to say and a lot of change that he wanted to have happen, but he didn't want to speak publicly because he was afraid of breaking his agreement. I did a video on this where I encouraged everybody in that situation to speak, and nobody did, and little changed. We have gotten so many people to show up at the legislature by the hundreds and have them tell their stories to people who properly documented and cited all of it. It resulted in a bill getting passed that allows people to get their wheelchairs repaired in days rather than months. There are many instances on this channel where I repeat the mantra over and over again: stop making fun of each other, stop picking on each other, and work together. I can't tell your stories. I would like to break your confidence and show your email chains and show your stories and tell your stories to everybody else. I can't tell your stories, but what I can tell you is that there are many other people who think just like you. There are many people who have gotten similar make to the one that I got. And there are many people out there that have had the same pit in their stomach when they realized and understood why the one text message that would make Steve look really bad if he didn't respond to it got sent to a number that Linus knew was the wrong phone. I can't tell your stories for you, especially when you swear me to secrecy. But in my 36 years, I can guarantee you one thing. I've never had an experience dealing with somebody who acts like Linus without dozens of other people having the exact same experience. And it's the same thing every time. It takes forever for 1 or 2 people to speak out, but the moment one person speaks out, everybody else speaks out real quick. The word influencer is used in our comment section by people as an insult, and it's used as an insult for a reason. It's easy for me to talk about this. I don't care about being on other people's YouTube channels. I don't care about being sponsored out by others. I'm not looking to get my products reviewed by other people. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't care about being brand safe. I'm broadcasting myself as originally intended, the way Mark Hunter was in that movie Pump Up the Volume in 1990. I was broadcasting myself and 5 people are watching, and I was broadcasting myself with 2 million watching. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this because I care about any of this other shit, which means that I have the ability to speak about this. I have one sponsor to worry about pissing off on this channel, and no matter how mad I make him, I can always fix it by giving him a greenie. All of you people, and you know exactly who you are because you have sent me messages over the years. I know who you are. You can either keep complaining about how you're bullied by this man, or you're pushed around by him, or you can speak out. You can tell your stories. You can confront it and deal with it. I guarantee you, your products will continue to sell without giving him $60,000 for a single shout out. I guarantee you, your products will continue to sell. I hope the community realizes how just worthless these endorsements are. One of these is like $30,000 to have something unboxed. It makes me sick seeing shit like this where like $30,000 for an unboxing video, and then I go to watch the video and you hear some shit like, it's an Asus, so you know it's good. Or sometimes in this channel you hear stuff like, this is from our friends at XYZ. And every time I hear that, it kind of goes back to this line from the Shawshank Redemption. Remember when the sisters look at Andy Dufresne and he's like, I can be a friend to you. Every time I hear that, it's like, man, I'll be your friend for $29,000. I could be a friend to you.
I could be a friend to you.
It always comes into my head. I guarantee you, all you people that are complaining in private about getting bullied by this man and about reading the same type of manipulative shit, I guarantee you, your products will continue to sell without giving him tens of thousands of dollars. You're good. uBlock Origin and Sponsor Block are more popular now than they have been at any time in history, which means for a good number of these shoutouts, you're probably not even getting viewed anymore anyway. And I encourage my audience at every single instance to install plugins onto their web browser and onto their phones that will allow them to avoid all of these advertisements. People are sick and tired of their entire life being an ad, and someone admitting that they cared more about their image than telling their 14 million audience members that a closed source piece of software they installed in their computer was being created by thieves. This guy's endorsement isn't even worth a greenie. Band together. Spend your money with creators that take accountability and responsibility. Spend your money with people that have ethics and backbone. You will spend far less money, and in the long run, you'll have more return. It's time for a change on this platform, and this starts with you. I do not want this platform to be known for this type of influencer. I want this platform to be known for influencers like Mr. Jack, not for influencers like you. I don't want to be like you. Steve Burke doesn't want to be like you. Alan Parsons doesn't want to be like you.
I wouldn't want to be like you.
That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.